Let's go over players' thoughts on the leaked Season 9 patch notes. They included multiple changes and a huge list of buffs and nerfs to all the heroes, and while players have been sharing their opinions on it, this is what some players have analyzed with the changes. From a support perspective, I think we're in for another Ana Kiri, Bab Kiri, or Ana Bab meta. None of the changes do anything but reinforce their dominance, because their heal numbers are still going to be the hardest to outplace in the roster. Mercy's going to be a blue beam res bot if she shows up, because that's unaffected by these changes. Mora might become a sleeper pick because of her high cleave heal and retained dueling potential. Alari's gonna suck ass because her pylon will be even easier to push with the extra HP. Lifeweaver is gonna feel nearly as bad as he did at launch, and Lucio will either feast with a DPS heavy Lucio playstyle if he survives the changes, or fall off the map altogether. Zen's probably going to struggle to get the value out of his ult in many cases, but Discord will be a very welcome addition to any team that can swing the lack of healing. Brig will likely barely hang on, mostly due to Ana, however she'll be much weaker overall. Ana's still got full strength anti, sleep for bullying tanks and setting up burst combos with allies, and the best burst healing in the game, not to mention Nano. Bap will make everyone live for an even more obnoxious amount of time, and Window will let him burst people down, which will be somewhat of a rarity in this meta. Kiri is still a zero risk 3-tap flanker with decently bursty healing and the ability to cleanse negative effects. She'll be fine, just slightly less obnoxious on the flanking side of things. For others, tanks will be open-minded for about 3 days before people start hard focusing them again for their 20% heal penalty, and they will say this is the worst state tank has been in. Supports will say this is the hardest season to play as support, as DPS aim is way more lenient and are being given training wheels, as DPS are getting the bullet size that supports currently have now. DPS will not complain about it being the hardest season to play because it won't be, but a lot of them will just not be happy anyways. Mercy will be the dark horse for the first week, and then shoot up in popularity when people figure out new damage breakpoints to pocket. But Mercy mains will complain she doesn't feel impactful enough and ask for healing buffs, despite having a good pick rate. Tracer will be considered F tier and a throw pick for 2 weeks, then slowly be considered mildly higher as C tier. Sombra will be considered F tier but stay F tier. Winston will be surprisingly good. Roadhog will be C tier. Reaper will be considered S tier after about 1 week. Sojourn will be S tier in the upper ranks almost immediately, which serves as the catalyst for Mercy becoming dominant. Hanzo will become popular after 1 week paired with Mercy. Cassidy will be a sleeper pick and will slowly become more popular throughout the season, but only become dominant when Sojourn is nerfed. Lucio is considered hot trash, but the Lucio mains don't mind as they got a boot buff. Brawl heroes begin to reign supreme for a bit, and Pharah's rework will initially be received very positively, but then people will start to find her obnoxious again and the rework will backfire, but it will not get rolled back. Main meta support pair will be Mercy and Baptiste. It's going to be a lot harder for Sombra to secure kills before someone reacts. She still should be fine with good teamwork to follow up, but she won't terrorize lower ranks with awful positioning as such. Zen and Mercy are going to become more useful because Discord, Orb, and Damage Boost are going to become more valuable when the enemy has more HP. Timings are going to feel weird. Ball won't be as good, but he won't be as bad as people are making him out to be. Same goes for Tracer and to an extent Genji. Larger health pools will make it harder to confirm kills, but people are acting like they're the only heroes affected by it for some reason. Hanzo is losing his one-shot. Junkrat's losing his combos. Cassidy and Ashe will both have breakpoint changes. It's not just your main's TT kill that's changing, and her sustained damage is significantly better. These heroes will be some of the most advantaged in their role by universal healing passive. Tracer will be able to play way more autonomously than before, and grabbing a mini as Ball will probably regen you a total of 300 HP between the pack, passive and shield regen. I'd probably argue they're the most advantaged by this passive in their respective roles, except maybe Sombra. Their health pool changes don't seem great at first, but Ball is getting armor while most tanks are getting health. Yes, Tracer is getting a smaller relative health increase, but it will change some important breakpoints, like getting 2-shot by Alari, or removing the head-body combo from Kiri. Breakpoints have always played a bigger part of the equation with Tracer than with other heroes. Similarly, heroes like Genji and Lucio will have more time to react and escape damage, with larger health pools, while other 250 HP heroes don't have the same level of mobility. I feel like health pools could benefit some of them more than more stationary heroes because they'll have a longer leash. Bullet size buffs will help Ball and Genji a ton, and the DPS passive could lower the volatility of Blade in the long run. It will make it significantly harder to heal. Not to mention the DPS passive buffs, Focus Fire, and all these heroes are pretty damn good at that. I don't think they'll be the biggest winners, but everyone is seeing the notes and immediate saying their main will be dead without considering how they're advantaged. My guess is some of the big winners are Soldier, Ashe, and Zen. Biggest losers are probably Hog and Hanzo and Lifeweaver. Everyone will continue to say Ryan is the worst tank in the game, even though a lot of the changes in the patch benefit him. I feel like there's still going to be more to the patch notes regarding buffs for some heroes who are very obviously impacted by changes in breakpoints. Like the notes just seemed incomplete, which most likely they were. The devs raised the base HP from 200 HP to 250 HP. This has a lot of effects on balance. One of them is that they changed the breakpoint of some heroes. For instance, Ashe can no longer headshot body shot, Hanzo can no longer one shot, Kiri can no longer double tap, as well as some other heroes. As a result, this means that frustrating insta-kills are dialed back to a significant degree, allowing players to actually react to incoming damage from off angles. A major complaint of the community is that sustain is too high. For example, players just don't die because of too much healing. The devs address the sustain by adding a role passive that reduces their target healing received. This means that confirming kills will be easier to accomplish, with fights not lasting quite as long as a result. Nerfing heal via introducing a healing received reduction passive for DPS may seem overly complicated, but it ties in very nicely with some of the other issues. According to the leaks, they are trying to make projectiles more viable by increasing their projectile hitbox. While this is also a compensation buff for heroes like Hanzo, whose one-shot was removed, this aims to increase the consistency of projectiles and reducing their potential max output. This is supposed to level the playfield a bit between hit scans and projectiles. No one likes playing against Far Mercy or a pocketed Sojourn, so the introduction of the DPS passive is a direct nerf to this kind of playstyle, because the healing received from the pocket will be a percentage less. While the DPS passive nerfs sustain, I think this and the next issue is where the passive really shines. Supports are often considered to be unlikable because of their self-healing capabilities, and since recent supports also have great damage output, they often turn out to be the victor in duels against DPS. The new passive buffs DPS significantly relative to supports. It gives them an edge in duels with supports because the healing received from Pylon, Orb, Nade, etc. is reduced. The previous issue and this one are closely related. The current sentiment is that DPS are not very impactful because their efforts are often denied by support sustainability. So nerfing sustain by giving the DPS the reduced healing received passive makes them feel more impactful without changing the power level of the supports. These are just some players' opinions on the leaked patch notes and all the buffs and nerfs that will be coming for the heroes. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.